Hi, Michael. So, protocol. My name's Aviv. I'm from Israel, 23 years old. I've been studying your material for about 4 years, 3 years. My way of engaging with the market is to look for inception of a price run around the time-based gap to an opposing liquidity pool, basically. So, Ndog, new week opening gap, RTH gap, first presented also. Now, my question is in regards to a framework, I guess you could call it, that I've been observing in the market for the last, I don't know, year, 2 years or so. And it's about correlation between the index triad or mostly NASDAQ and ES, but the entire triad essentially, regarding how they move respective to the quadrants in the opening range. So what I look for is, say we have a gap up, right? And we have a very clear drawn liquidity to the upside. What I look for is for one of the assets to work the upper quadrant while the other asset drops all the way down to the 50%, for example. I wanted to know if this is something that you look at because, to the best of my memory, I don't recall you teaching this specifically, but whenever I look at this exact signature, it's something very powerful that I've noticed. Thank you.
If I understand you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking for a sustained price run higher, it gaps higher, but one of the instruments trades lower than the other one, and you're asking if that has any significance in terms of how strong the move would be.
Yeah, so not only lower, but it has to be more specific. So, say NASDAQ hits the upper quadrant of a large opening range gap up. At the same time, the same exact low on the other asset, for example, goes all the way down to 50%. Then I'm using the logic that you taught that tells me if an asset is working upper quadrant of a gap, it's the most bullish, but I'm also looking at it from an intermarket analysis perspective because the other asset is going all the way down to 50%. So I call it like opening range gap divergence, basically. And whenever this happens, I look for a CISD away from it, and usually the result is a very large expansion, if there's a obvious draw, of course.
Yeah, what you're describing is SMT. It's relative strength between the correlated markets, and because it's relative strength analysis, you're seeing the actual mechanics of wanting to see kind of like rejecting, not wanting to go where the other one does, but still holding the symmetry with the quadrants and the opening range gap. So there is absolute valid usefulness to it. It does promote an understanding of which one should propel further, which one's stronger.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're saying it is like logical to look at the asset that is working, for example, the upper quadrant as opposed to the consequent encroachment to look for a larger distribution, correct? In the right direction.
I would, yeah, I would. I, it's not always going to pan out like that. Sometimes you'll have the one that has not gone lower. Sometimes it will go lower. But if it does, it's just getting in sync and taking something smaller, like maybe sub 1 minute liquidity. And then once it absorbs that, then it can go in the direction you think it's going to go. So it's a matter of submitting to the idea, but also allowing for user error. If you get stopped out, it doesn't negate the idea of it going higher. It just means that you're going to have to go into another trade and re-enter. So don't look at it if it fails you in the future and think, oh, it's breaking down. I talked about something now. Everybody knows about it. It's going to fail. It's just a matter of that one instance. It was there at the time, but SMT, in and of itself, without any logic added to it, it doesn't warrant any participation at all. There's many times, and sometimes I've wanted to do this, record how many times SMT looks like it's there, but they're phantoms. They're really doing nothing. In strong price runs higher, you could see, what would look like a bullish SMT, but they fizzle out and they go away. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people over the years since I started teaching it They come in and say, "Oh, SMT doesn't work," because they're just looking for the diversions because of the diversion's sake only. But you have to blend a lot of other things. So what you're seeing, what you're identifying, it's a real phenomenon. But don't be discouraged if it comes against the one you're in, because it just means that it's going back to get in sync with the other one, and then they'll move together in tandem.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
You're very welcome.
So stop loss cannibal. Month 12. Core content 16, 17. Do you use that top down analysis? Do you look at relative strength? That for what you described for me, and as Michael described, is as he describes in month 12, and within your top down analysis of things that you could look for within your technical analysis.